Today's conversation is with Armando Caceres, a combat veteran who served in the Marines.
Welcome to the Burnout Podcast. I am your host, Skip O. This podcast is brought to you by Throttle and Thrive and mypodcast.media. Let me talk to you a little bit more about Throttle and Thrive. It's a treatment facility in California. It's a 6-bed unit for men only, first responders. They have a workout facility. They have a 12-step program that they take people to. And they also specialize in their diets. If they have a special diet they need to cater to, they can do that also. They practice with EMDR and talk therapy. It's a very family-like atmosphere. Their focus is to rescue the rescuers. You can go to their website, throttleandthrive.com. You can also call them at 805-701-1309. That's 805-701-1309. And you can also look at the show notes for more information. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Burnout Podcast. My name's Skip O, and we got our good friend Armando here. Armando has served in the military, in the Marines for a little while. Armando, I'm going to let you say your last name.
I'm Armando Caceres. I'm a combat veteran. Served overseas in Afghanistan, and now I've been out now for a couple years and try to give back to the community through peer support and a couple other ways. And life's been a big roller coaster since I got out, for sure.
Well, I tell you, we've known each other a little over a year, I believe it is now, and you go out and you try to help different people, whether it's a first responder or somebody that's struggling with mental health issues or addictions. And I know my family, they tried to help me the best they can, but they wasn't equipped to do so. And my family had to reach out to other treatment facilities and professionals to help me, and it worked itself out. When your family, you want to tell them a little bit about, you told them a little bit about your background, but kind of go from where your story is up till now, sure. And then we'll ask some questions in between. I'll interrupt you.
Yeah. So I got out in 2019. And I think the big thing for me was I had no idea what was next. And because I didn't know what was next, I kind of threw caution to the wind and decided that I was going to start running really long distances. Which at the time, in the beginning, it was like 26.2 miles a marathon. And then it gradually became more and more. When that ultimately wasn't enough and my work and job life, just weren't as satisfying, no purpose, or didn't feel very purposeful. I'll say that. I started drinking more and more, and eventually, my family kind of said that they had enough. Let
me interrupt you for a second. Before you went in the military and growing up, did you ever have a problem with any addiction or anybody in your family?
Yeah. So on my dad's side, my grandfather was an alcoholic, and we don't know much about my mom's side, but outside of that, no real substance use issues, no mental health issues, at least that I'm aware of. And getting out of the Marine Corps, I won't say pushed me towards alcoholism and substance use, but it definitely was a big player in it.
Well, would you say, I don't want to speak for you, some of the trauma that you've seen over there or experienced yourself, sure. Was that something like the running, trying to fill a hole in your soul, trying to find out, answer questions that you couldn't answer, or if that makes any sense?
So for me, the running in the beginning had purpose in my head. I can accomplish a goal. In reality, and how it plays into my addiction was I was just increasing intensity of a situation. So increasing mileage and then increasing control. Once I accomplished a milestone, so say I ran 30 miles, I felt like I had control over that 30 miles. And as you and I both know, that doesn't exactly pan out when it comes to drinking, at least the way that I drink. And, I thought at some point that, I could drink however much I wanted for as many days as I wanted, and then one day just stop. And unfortunately, that's not how the disease of alcoholism, works. And so I would definitely say that, both those outlets, good or bad, were ways for me to escape reality, and, sort of feel like I was in control of my own life. And I really wasn't.
Sure. And, when you said you was drinking and your family was trying to help and stuff, and you went to treatment centers, and if you feel comfortable with it, how many treatment facilities have you been in a year and a half or two?
In 2 years, I've been to, I think, 4 treatment centers.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay.
It feels right.
Sure. And the part of those treatment centers was, one of them was the VA, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I went to treatment center. That's a VA facility up in Michigan. It's I won't name it, but it's if you know anything about the VA in Michigan, you'll figure it out fairly quickly. Anyway, so yeah, I went there for some mental health help. I had been sober for some time, so I was going there for just the mental health side of stuff, and trying to solve that piece for me. And I will say that things didn't necessarily improve while I was there, and that was a tough one, because I felt like I had been trying pretty hard and working at building my life back. And, for whatever reason, the treatment there just didn't stick. That's one thing that, and I'll just touch on this briefly, not every treatment is going to work on the first shot. Not every treatment is going to work, perfectly. So, keep that in mind when I talk about these treatments. It's not that it can't work for you just because it didn't work for me.
Sure. That's good. And that's a good way to put it. So, let's kind of, and you can fill in the gaps or jump back or forth, where you want to. Let's go into the last week or two of your drinking this time. What changed, or what happened?
So the last week of my drinking, it was pretty pathetic. Like if you saw me, I would say that I probably hadn't showered in, I don't know, close to a month. At that point, I had been, sort of bouncing around the hospital in and out just about every month for about 3 months in a row. And my daily routine was, as long as it wasn't Sunday, because in Indiana, you can't buy alcohol until noon on Sundays, was to wake up around 6:58, vomit, throw some sweatpants on, a hoodie on, a hat and sunglasses that I had been wearing the same pair of everything for probably a month. And then as quickly as I could, walk over to either Kroger or CVS, whichever one I thought that day was going to be faster, and then walk back and drink until I passed out by myself.
I tell you, I can relate with a lot with that, along with a lot of other people out there that's listening, has seen somebody. I used to, and people say, people with addiction don't have any willpower. They should be able to quit. Do you know how much willpower to put your body through that day in and day out, and not listening to common sense like your family or whoever?
Yeah.
I think with me, it was right. I didn't have the willpower to quit, but I had the will to drink until the end. And that was my plan. What was your plan?
I don't know that I really had one. I was definitely to the point where I was just okay drinking myself to death. And I knew that's where it was going to go. There's a saying around a particular group that I go to that a little bit of AA will screw up your buzz real quick. And there towards the end, it definitely was doing that. I knew better. I've worked in treatment. I've been around the rooms long enough. I've worked the steps. And so there's like this little nagging, angel telling you to do the right thing. And, addiction, on the other hand, is just telling me, not you, that, you're fine. Keep going, keep doing this. And when I finally did, make the decision to go and try to get some help, I went down to the VA, and there's a lot of shame and guilt associated with that. And, because I've been there multiple times for withdrawing, and, I'm not a frequent flyer per se, but, there are people that recognize me, when in outpatient clinic and, from the ER. So I'm not a new face. I think the way that I sort of overcame that stigma was, this time I was like, I'm going to get help one way or the other. When I leave this hospital, there is no, I'm just here to detox, and, I'm going to leave and not have somewhere to go. And we'll get into that. Skip had some doubts
Sure.
at the beginning.
I tell you, so it sounded like you're a Norm on Cheers. When he walked in, he goes, Norm. So when you walked in the treatment, Armando.
Yeah.
So, no, I tell you what, I'm not making light of this situation. It is, it's heart wrenching when you're going through it. But sometimes us first responders, we got dark humor, or we got dark humor to get through stuff. But okay, you go for the last time, you're in the VA, and what's going through your mind? Are you like what I was, and a lot of people, when am I going to fail again? Yeah. Or how long is it going to last this time? Where was your mind then?
So at that point, I had conversations with a couple people that I had known within the VA, and I knew I wanted to go to treatment of some sort, but I didn't know exactly where. And luckily, I've known Skip for a minute, so he reached out to some of his contacts. And my plan, not the VA's plan, was to go out to a treatment center in California that deals with first responders and veterans alike, and go through that. Now, the VA has their system that they have to go through. And for the most part, the VA's rules typically make sense, but they're not always targeted for, they can't be targeted towards every situation. They have to be targeted for the entire population that the VA serves. So yeah, I knew that my mindset was that I was going to get help. I just didn't know where and when that was going to be exactly.
Sure. And the treatment center Armando is speaking about is Thrive and Throttle. They're one of our sponsors, and Siobhan really tried to work with Armando and and us to work through it. But, things don't always work out the way we plan, but a lot of times they work out the way they're supposed to.
Yeah.
So from not getting exactly what we wanted or what you wanted, where does it go from there?
Yeah. So I spent about a week in the hospital. 3 of those days were pretty unnecessary. I only stayed because I was fighting to go to a treatment center. I didn't want to have a gap in my care. So I wanted to go from the hospital to treatment, which is pretty normal, pretty commonplace. And typically most hospitals can make it happen. The VA, just didn't have that ability. So the VA offered me a program where I was going to be able to go and have a bed within about 17 days of leaving the hospital. I have a track record of leaving the hospital and having idle time, and it typically ends with me in a hotel room drinking alone and throwing everything that I worked out at the VA out the window. So I knew that probably wasn't an option for me. And, like Skip said, things happen for a reason, and they end up being the way that they should be. So I ended up leaving the hospital and talking to Skip about sober living in Anderson, Indiana. And I decided that, you know what, I need to go somewhere safe. And yes, it's crappy that I have to pay for it on my own. And, the VA really should be taking care of this, but I need help now. I don't need help after it's too late. The VA would call me later and tell me that they actually pushed my date back even further. So I would have waited a lot longer than I had I made that decision. So I called Skip on Friday, and he was like, "Hey, can you be here by 10:30?" And I got discharged from the hospital at 8.
That's 10:30 at night.
And I said, no, I can't. And he said, well, they don't take people in on the weekends, so you're going to have to wait. And I said, okay. And then Skip ignored me for the weekend.
Heck yeah, I did. I didn't think he was going to be honest with you. I didn't think he was going to make it. I've had calls like that before, and I had people say they're going to be there. And then if you don't act now, usually in very rare cases, they don't survive the weekend or don't survive that certain thing. But I'm not always right.
Yeah. It's one of the few times I've proven Skip wrong here.
I'm sure it's going to be a lot more too.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. But Monday came around and I showed up with a suitcase, and that's pretty much it. I showed up, and I've been willing to work with what has been put in front of me, and what's been put in front of me has been a lot. Not to take away from what I've worked on, just for myself. I continue to fight with the VA to go to this treatment center through patient advocate, social workers, talking to the chief of the substance use disorder clinic, the chief of psychiatry at the VA, and ultimately the chief of staff, which, yeah, that was a conversation. That was a good conversation. At the end of the day, when I finally got to speak to the head honcho, Dr. David Silver, really did come through with some empathy for me, because he knows the VA is not perfect. And I wasn't making the call for me at that point anymore. He and I were having a conversation about getting veterans the help they need when they need it. And the fact is that a lot of times we don't, especially when it comes to mental health and substance use, we don't have time to wait around. It's not like an elective surgery, or, we can, give you a boot for a week, and then in a week we can do surgery. A lot of times we do need that care right away. I'm fortunate that I'm an individual that's willing to speak up when I think something is wrong, or when I feel like something could be done better. I have a family that, throughout my alcoholism, sober or not, in recovery or not, has genuinely cared for me and fought tooth and nail, to that degree.
I tell you, I worked with a lot of firemen, policemen, veterans, and everyday people. At the end of the day, they got to have it in their heart to do it. Because you can go to Hawaii, to the best treatment center there. Sure. Or you can go out to California to Thrive and Throttle, or Center of Excellence, or Shatterproof in Florida. But if your heart's not in it, and that mine wasn't either, you're not going to do it. Right. And it doesn't matter if it's a perfect facility. That's what I found. What I found with this, we use the House of Hope here in Anderson. There's also the Grace House. There's Bethel House. There's all kinds of different houses in our community. But if somebody don't have insurance, or if what's going on with them, they need something different, that's why we kind of house them at one of these houses. And then we the Worldwide Peer Support and the Burnout Network wrap ourselves around them. And because Armando, he came in at the right time. He sobered up. He went to FDIC, told his story there, and got around people. And he's not a guy that's a social butterfly, but he got around and talked to people, told them the story. He's helping me on different projects, or helped me remember different projects I forget about. But it's not about, for me, it's not how smart you are. It's how willing you are. And what I've seen in Armando is a change in him, and I hope it continues to that. So we wanted to come on here, somebody early on in recovery and some old guy on here. It's never too late, and it's never too early to help somebody or get involved into a mission. Because, you get out, sent out on a mission overseas, or you get sent on a mission to go into a fire or down a dark alley. If you're a police officer, we want to be here for you afterwards, after the mission's done. And usually the battle begins when the mission's done. I don't know. Can you relate to that?
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it. When we're in the moment, we're not thinking about what's going to happen after, or, if we're going to be changed by something, whether you saw combat every day or you saw nothing when you were in country, or, you weren't at the busiest station in town, or, you weren't. I think that we can all kind of relate to those times when, afterwards we sit there and we tell ourselves that we're okay. We tell ourselves that everything is all right. And, that lie extends because at the end of the day, I know for me, it was a lie. That lie extends beyond just me telling myself that I'm okay, but it turns into telling my friends, my family, my service dog, Steffi, that I'm okay. And when I continue that process and I don't reach out, that's when I end up in a very dark place. And like I said, or like Skip had said, we're here to help. It's never too early to reach out, or it's never too late to reach out, especially, we give back because it helps us. And truthfully, we want to see everybody succeed, first responder or not.
Sure. Absolutely. And, if you're out there searching for yourself, for your family, there's all kinds of things you can do. You can go on the burnoutpodcast.org. There's a support meeting at 6 p.m. Eastern on Sundays, and the worldwidepeersupport.org, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern. There's a Zoom support meeting. Also here in Madison County and Indianapolis, we got meetings in Indianapolis, Muncie, and Anderson for first responders, not just with an addiction, but support for their mental health too. So if you don't have an addiction and you need some support, we'll guide you the right way. Those, not everybody that's out there has an addiction. Some, the mental health part is huge. And we want to help support those too. So Armando, there is somebody out there listening right now. They're either in their squad car, they're over there on a mission, or they're just sitting in the barracks, just waiting to go somewhere, or a firefighter. It's a midnight.
Taking a nap.
Yeah, taking a nap. Yeah, thanks. They just woke up. They turned the podcast on.
Yeah.
They're struggling. You got 30 seconds to help them out. What are you going to say?
Reach out to somebody. It doesn't have to be me. It doesn't have to be Skip. It doesn't have to be anybody you know. Reach out to somebody and just talk to them about what you're going through. If you're thinking it, if you're feeling it, and you're not saying it to somebody, know that not saying it will keep you burdened. I know it kept me burdened for a long time. And don't get me wrong, I still have times when I don't necessarily want to talk about something, but it gets a lot easier. And the more that you do talk about stuff, the better it gets. My life by no means is perfect now, but I can tell you my worst day in sobriety is definitely better than my worst day drinking. And, that goes mental health wise too. If you took my addiction away, my worst day, dealing with my mental health, it is going to look very different. So, reach out, talk to somebody, and, know that you're loved. I think that's another important thing is, you are loved by somebody out there, and that can be the difference between, feeling completely alone and abandoned, and reaching out for someone.
Sure. And I always like to ask Armando, is there any quote or any saying that kind of crosses your mind when you're struggling, or you need a little bit of something that crosses your mind?
Sure. I think, I think two things, right? So, I'm not religious, but AA has definitely brought spirituality into my life. I can't quote it, but there is a verse in the Bible that is Joshua 1:9. And the meaning behind it for me is that, my higher power is with me even in the dark places. That my higher power asked me to have faith that, even when things are seemingly bad, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to make it through. The other one that I would say is, there's a man named Viktor Frankl who wrote several books, but was a Holocaust survivor and a clinician. And he says that a man can endure any how if he has a strong enough why. And, for me, that speaks volumes, because when I have a purpose, when I have something that I'm striving for, I ultimately feel like, I can, any tribulation, anything that's thrown in my direction, any obstacle, I can truly overcome because I have that why. And that why changes on a daily basis, which is a good thing. It keeps me guessing, and it keeps me excited for continuing to live, because there was definitely a point when I didn't have purpose, and continuing to live didn't seem like a feasible thing for me.
Well, man, that was, you got a good story to tell people, and keep sharing, and appreciate you coming on today. And I appreciate everybody listening in. Like I said, if you want to get a hold of Armando, go to burnoutpodcast.org, send us an email, and we'll get you connected if you want to hear a lot more of his story. Also, if you need a support meeting, go on the same burnoutpodcast.org, 6 p.m. Eastern, Sunday evening. And Jeff Dewar, he's a Maryland firefighter paramedic. He facilitates that meeting. Or you can go on the worldwidepeersupport.org, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern. And there's some support meetings there. If you need resources, you don't know which way to go if you're a family member or a person a first responder trying to help another first responder, get a hold of us. We'll try to help you out. But until now, go home tonight, shut your phone off, shut your scanner off, get some sleep. Thank you.